evening, Patriots, and welcome to the live broadcast of the show. We do this every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Central, so if you're new, thank you for joining us tonight. You all had many places you could be. You chose to be here with me, and for that, I'm forever grateful. I sure do appreciate it. Wow, what a difference just a few hours make, much less a couple of days. We have, as you know by now, Joe Biden stepping down and is not going to run for re-election. Of course, we all know why. Then he backs Kamala Harris. So there's that we have to talk about. And then also the Secret Service director was literally grilled in front of Congress yesterday and has finally decided to resign and step aside. That entire situation with her, a lot of things that have come out since then that we're finding out little bits and pieces of, is what conspiracy theories are made of. When you're not transparent and when you, for whatever reason, refuse to give information to the American people. And in this case, it was also to members of Congress. Because when the Secret Service director went in front of them, she answered nothing. She referred just about everything to the FBI. And it showed a couple of things. It showed her incompetence. It showed her inability to be a leader. And I believe it also showed that she really didn't have a clue what was going on. Or did she? Now, we've since found out that she's good friends with Joe Biden. Go figure that one. We're going to talk a little bit more about this as we go on tonight. But let's start with prior to Joe Biden stepping down. Last week, all the rumors that were floating around was that Joe Biden was going to end his campaign and not run for a second term. All the major polling companies got a workout by the media asking them to go and start doing polling just to see where would Trump stand against Kamala Harris if that became the nominee for the Democrat Party. And what they came up with was CNN's poll showed Trump would beat Hillary would beat Harris 47 to 45%. YouGov poll had Trump 44 to Harris's 43. CBS News poll, Trump 51 to Harris 48. Morning Consult poll, Trump 46 to Harris 45. Forbes poll, Trump 52 to Harris 48. Fox News, Trump 49 to Harris 48. NBC, Trump 47 to Harris 45. Emerson poll was Trump 49 to Harris 43. Yahoo was Trump 47 to Harris 45. And Data for Progress polling had Trump at 48 for Harris 45. And then a recent poll by Reuters was put out just recently, like in the past few hours, to try and gauge where people stand right now. And it's just with one poll, but it showed them virtually tied. So we will have more polls coming out. If you did not see the video that I put out a little over an hour ago after tonight's show, I hope that you will go and watch it. And I hope that you will share it with your family, your friends on your social media sites. Because every American, at least Republicans, conservatives, and anybody that's on the fence, say independents, need to listen to what Harris said during her first political campaign speech, which took place earlier today. It is shocking. Besides making some really deep cuts, comparing herself to Trump when it comes to her past time as a district attorney. She also made it very clear where she's going to go with numerous things, such as your gun rights, such as AR-15s. She laid it all out there, my friends. So it's very important that you check that out. It is titled Urgent Wake Up Republicans Now. So after tonight's show, please go there and share that video. Because my guess is 99% of all Republicans and conservatives did not watch her speech or give a damn what she had to say. And that's where we're getting it wrong. Because you do need to hear what she has to say. We do need to know what we're fighting against. And she made it very, very clear what we're fighting against. So, now that she's been named as the person that the Democrats want to see become the next president and go up against Donald Trump, an organization came out today and had some pretty damning things to say. A Democrat organization, a Democrat/liberal organization. An organization that I've talked about so many times on this show, it's ridiculous. And that is Black Lives Matter. The left-wing organization Black Lives Matter is resisting the installation of Vice President Kamala Harris as the presumptive Democrat nominee and are calling on the Democrat National Convention to create a process that allows for public participation in the nomination process, not just a nomination by party delegates. In a statement released today, Black Lives Matter, the group, which rose to prominence in 2020 for organizing nationwide protests in the wake of the killing of George Floyd, said that a 24-hour process of talking to party bosses is not democratic, nor is it a process Democrats should be proud of. For weeks after his disastrous debate performance last month, internal party pressure mounted against President Joe Biden to drop out of the race. Though he resisted those calls and insisted he was in it to win. But abruptly, over the weekend, Biden dropped out of the race and nominated Kamala Harris to lead the top of the ticket. And overnight, the Democrat Party co-sealed around her, winning enough delegate support to secure the nomination at the DNC convention in August. But Black Lives Matter, a group that prominently aligns with the Democrat Party, is calling foul on that. We do not live in a dictatorship. Delegates are not oligarchs. Installing Kamala Harris as a Democrat nominee and an unknown vice president without any public voting process would make the modern Democrat Party of hypocrites, the group said in their statement released today. Black Lives Matter demands that the DNC immediately host an informal virtual snap primary across the country prior to the DNC convention in August. We call for the Rules Committee to create a process that allows for public participation in the nomination process, not just a nomination by party delegates. The current political landscape is unprecedented, with President Biden stepping aside in a manner never seen before. This moment calls for decisive action to protect the integrity of our democracy and the voices of Black voters. Democrat Party elites and billionaire donors are attempting to manipulate Black voters by anointing Kamala Harris and an unknown vice president as the new Democrat ticket without a primary vote by the public, the group stated. This blatant disregard for democratic principles is unacceptable. While the potential outcome of a Harris presidency may be historic, the process to achieve it must align with true Democrat values, it continued. We have no idea where Kamala Harris stands on the issues now that she has assumed Joe Biden's place. And we have no idea of the record of a potential vice president because we don't even know who it is yet. Shalomyah Bowers, Shalomyah Bowers, is the Black Lives leader who put out this statement. This is not an attack on Kamala Harris or black women. And right now, we aren't questioning Kamala Harris' qualifications or capabilities. This is about the nomination process, the Black Lives Matter spokesperson said. Those of us who care about the principles of democracy cannot be serious about installing Kamala Harris and an unknown vice president as a Democrat nominee without any semblance of people's power process, she said. But delegates and party elites actually asking communities across the country if they believe this should be a Democrat ticket. Anything less is unserious and the quest against our democracy. I never in my wildest imaginations thought that I would read something like that from Black Lives Matter. But they're over the target. That's pretty damn impressive to me. So, to anybody out there from Black Lives Matter that may happen to come across this video after it goes up or is watching tonight's show, I ask you to please now do your homework on Kamala Harris. Now that you're already upset about how the process took place to put her in that position, now do your homework. And Black Lives Matter people, when you realize how she acted towards especially black people when she was a DA in California, and how she was overwhelmingly for locking up and putting away for years black people for simple marijuana possession, you need to see that for yourself. You need to realize exactly how she acted as a district attorney, because she is going to use that as, if you watch the video I put out earlier today, or a little over an hour and a half ago, 2 hours ago, you will hear her. That's her big thing. She's going to compare her experience as a lawyer and a DA against Donald Trump and his 32 felonies and the accusations of assault on women. And that's going to be her running platform. You need to pay attention, Black Lives Matter and Democrats. Don't let anybody fool you into voting just because, oh, it's a woman, so I have to support a woman, or oh, it's a black person, so I have to support a black person, or oh, it's a black woman, I have to support black women. No, you don't have to support anyone. If you choose a president based on their color or their skin, that's as racist as not choosing a person based on the color of their skin. Wake up and do not fall into this trap that they're trying to set. And man, have they set that hook in today. Now it's time for the rest of us to step up and expose the corruption of the DNC, expose the corruption of Kamala Harris. Remember, she was the border czar. That was her first official duties. Her first official duties by Joe Biden as president, to her as vice president, was go down there and figure out what's happening on our border and why is it happening and how do we fix it. And you know how many times over the past 3.5 years, Vice President Kamala Harris went to the border and met with Border Patrol agents? If you guessed 0, you would be correct. She's never done that. She is a fraud. And she is nothing more than Joe Biden's puppet. That's exactly what this is all about. Her policies are what Joe Biden's policies were. And she will continue on those policies, going after the gas and oil industry across this country, allowing more illegal immigrants to flow across the border, more fentanyl and all types of narcotics to come across, more sex trafficking of women and children across that southern border, more angel families being created, and that is when an illegal alien kills an American citizen. She's for MS-13 gang members coming across. She didn't even go meet with the Border Patrol in 3.5 years. That was her only job he gave her. Let's take it a step further and look at what she has done as vice president for 3.5 years. Now, if you just listen to her first campaign speech and the future ones to come, where she's talking or reading from a teleprompter, you will not get the true Kamala Harris. But the minute she is not in front of a teleprompter, then you will see this babbling idiot, laughing hyena that is clueless about what's going on. And when she is being interviewed or talking to a group of people, she talks down to them as if they're kindergartners. Don't take my word for it. Please look it up. Or look at my video I put out, I think it was yesterday, about just that. Her constant gaffes and her constant, just outright ridiculous words coming from her mouth. So anyone, whether you're white or black, you support Black Lives Matter? Black Lives Matter is not happy with the Democrat process right now and with Kamala Harris being put in that position. Now it's up to the rest of you members of Black Lives Matter and the black community as a whole, and anybody out there that's a Democrat, for crying out loud. Pay attention to this party. Who better to expose them than me, a former Democrat? Somebody that was born and raised in the Deep South, a Democrat. One of my cousins was a Democrat governor of Louisiana. That's how embedded the Democrat Party was in my family. And I was the first one, after I joined the Army, to switch parties when I started realizing that they weren't for the military. They weren't for law enforcement. They were racist bigots. And when that came into from black and white to color, I saw it. And I realized how foolish I was to follow, like a little soldier or like sheep walking off a cliff, the Democrat Party. Do your homework. It's very, very important. Tennessee Republican Congressman Andy Olix has filed articles of impeachment against Vice President Kamala Harris over her handling of the southern border and for her insisting that Joe Biden was fit for the top of the Democrat ticket. Harris has faced GOP attacks from all sides since becoming the presumptive Democrat nominee for president. Republicans have accused her of covering up the president's mental decline and demand she invoke the 25th Amendment to remove Biden. The first article of impeachment, willful refusal to uphold the immigration laws, stem from her inaction with border security and immigration law as Joe Biden's border czar. The second article of impeachment alleges breach of public trust. Harris knowingly misled the public and Congress about the physical and mental well-being of the president. Since Biden stepped down for the presidential race, Republicans have begun to paint Harris as Biden's border czar, which she was. Under her administration, it saw record border crossings. In the history of America, there has never been an administration, Republican or Democrat, that has seen the flow of illegal immigration into our country than this administration. Biden appointed Harris early in his administration to deal with the root causes of immigration. Calls for the 25th Amendment has swelled as Biden hit out in Delaware for 6 days with a COVID-19 diagnosis, and the biggest decision of his lifetime weighing over his head. The president ultimately gave in to public pressure and stepped down from the running of the 2024 election on this past Sunday, nearly a month after his disastrous debate performance against Donald Trump. Representative Chip Roy of Texas first filed a resolution just after the debate to call on Harris to convene a cabinet and declare President Joe Biden is unable to carry out his duties as commander-in-chief. Speaker Mike Johnson told reporters yesterday he was still considering whether to put the resolution on the House floor. Mike Johnson, you should have already put it on the House floor, and we the people demand that you put it on the House floor immediately. Representative Andy Orlix, he called for Harris to invoke the 25th Amendment yesterday, and he introduced the articles of impeachment for vice president failing to uphold the border laws. Senator Eric Smith wrote a letter to everyone on Biden's campaign or his cabinet members, urging them to invoke the 25th. Of course, they're not going to do that. That President Biden is willing to admit he's unable to continue to stand as the Democrat Party nominee for the presidency after the primary process due to his health. He is unable to continue to serve as president until January 20th, 2025, the letter states. We cannot have a commander-in-chief in charge of the nuclear codes who is experiencing the level of mental decline that we see in President Biden, said Representative Derek Van Orgen. And he's also calling for the 25th. Representative Nancy Mace said on X in response to a clip of Biden caught on camera for the first time in 6 days. She said they lied then and they will continue to lie. Joe Biden is unfit to run for president and therefore unfit to serve as president. Yet Vice President Harris lied to the American people and covered it up. We must immediately invoke the 25th, wrote Republican Claudia Tenney. Congress cannot invoke the 25th, by the way. The cabinet and vice president must agree to do that. The resolution should simply turn up pressure on them to do so. The U.S. Constitution's 25th Amendment states that whenever the vice president, a majority of either the principal officers or the executive departments or of such other body as Congress may, by law, provide, transmit to the president pro tempore of the Senate and of the House of Representatives the written declaration that the president is unable to discharge his powers of duty in his office. The vice president shall immediately assume the powers and duties of the office as acting president. So you might be asking, why would we want Kamala Harris to all of a sudden become the president for the last few months as she goes up against Donald Trump? You better read between the lines. Hope I don't have to spell that out. Should be pretty damn obvious. A bail fund for criminals backed by Vice President Kamala Harris during the 2020 presidential election that helped free violent criminals is back in the spotlight as the website appears to still be taking donations. As of last night, the website was running and accepting payments. If you are able to, chip in now to the @MN Freedom Fund to help post bail for those that were protesting on the grounds in Minnesota. Harris posted on X, then Twitter, back in 2020, urging people to donate to the fund during that 2020 campaign. Harris promoted the bail fund in June of 2020 to help bail Black Lives Matter rioters out of jail. They raised over $41 million to free these people that torched police cars, looted and burnt down businesses. Minnesota-based Fox 9 reported that the fund spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to free an alleged knife murderer and convicted rapist who was facing charges of sexual assault and kidnapping, among others. Another criminal, George Howard, 48, also reaped the benefits of the funds. He allegedly became involved in a road rage altercation on Interstate 94 entrance ramp before he shot another driver, according to the Minneapolis police, weeks after bailing out on domestic assault charges from this organization. Surveillance video recorded the moments when the driver of a blue BMW confronted Howard, who was driving a white Volvo. According to St. Paul KSTP TV, the victim can be seen punching Howard and then collapsing. The victim, later identified as Luis Damon Martinez Ortez, 38, got back into his car, then drove into the median. He was pronounced dead at the hospital with a gunshot wound to the chest, according to city officials. Howard had been out on an $11,500 bond in connection with the domestic assault case since August 6th. That's when Minnesota Freedom Fund bailed him out. Minneapolis-based Fox 9 reported that the fund spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to free an alleged knife murderer and convicted rapist who was facing charges, as well as George Howard. I'm sure you all heard about this. I'm almost positive that I even did a video on it when it was happening back in 2020, where she was asking people on Twitter to donate to this cause, to get all those convicted of felony crimes out on bail. Another thing that you're going to find out about Kamala Harris, besides everything we just talked about, is how she's going to treat Israel if she got elected. Vice President Kamala Harris declined to preside over tomorrow's joint address to Congress by Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, because she will be in Indiana for an event that was previously scheduled per an aide. Harris, who on Monday became the presumptive Democrat nominee for president following President Biden's campaign suspension, will not be in attendance at the address and will not precede it. With Harris's absence, the task ordinarily falls to Senate President Pro Tem Patty Murray, Democrat, Washington. But Murray reportedly refused to do so and will insist and will be boycotting the address. When Harris' office was asked if she would have agreed to preside over Netanyahu's address if she was going to be in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday, an aide to the vice president said they would not answer hypothetical questions. Netanyahu will be speaking to members of Congress during a joint address tomorrow after being invited by bipartisan leaders of both chambers back in May. In the absence of both Harris and Murray, the session will instead be presided over by Senator Ben Cardwell, Democrat, who is retiring after this Congress. During the time of Netanyahu's address, Harris will be attending the Zia Phi Beta Sorority Grand Brule in Indianapolis, Indiana, which is a biannual international conference per a White House official. It's amazing how all of a sudden she's got this up and running schedule. We're going to talk about that in a minute. While she won't be there, an aide emphasized that Harris' absence and refusal to preside should be considered a change, shouldn't be considered a change of her stance on Israel. An aide to the vice president told Fox News Digital that she would be meeting with Netanyahu at the White House possibly later this week in Washington, D.C. They noted that the meeting is separate from Biden's planned meeting with the prime minister, although we just heard that Biden isn't going to meet with the prime minister. According to the aide, Harris will once again condemn the October 7, 2023 attack against Israel, civilians by Hamas, as well as the sexual violence that took place. The vice president will also express her already stated concerns about the humanitarian situation in Gaza, where most of the war is taking place. Harris is expected to further convey that the war should end in a way that allows for a secure Israel, the release of all hostages, and the restoration of the rights of the civilians in Gaza. So I think now we know how she's going to treat Israel. Now, before I continue, let me go back a minute and talk about her schedule. Again, if you did not see her first campaign speech, you can see it right here on if you're watching from Rumble, you can see it on my Rumble channel. If you're watching from YouTube, you can see it there. It was amazingly put together, very, very professionally done, with music, with her speech. It was as if this has been going on for a long, long time. Because it has. This has been planned for a long, long time. There is no way in hell anyone can watch that speech and not realize that this was set up a long time ago. And they probably needed time to get it all finished and set up. And that's why supposedly Biden had COVID, which is just an excuse. This has been known, going to happen for a long time by the Democrat Party in Washington, D.C. And they pulled a hell of a good one over those that are gullible enough to believe that it just happened. It just happened. No, it didn't just happen. Now, tomorrow night, Joe Biden plans to address the nation and explain further his reasons for stepping down, which we already know. So he doesn't need to waste his time doing it, but he will. Do you believe in miracles? Well, a miracle has taken place now that Joe Biden is no longer running to serve 4 more years. The Justice Department revealed late yesterday in a court filing that it does, in fact, have transcripts of President Biden's interviews with a biographer after initially having denied having possession of these documents. Now they don't care because he's not going to run. That's the Department of Justice for you under this administration. That is criminal. They stonewalled the House investigation and lied and said this doesn't exist. And now that Joe Biden isn't going to run, mysteriously, they now have it. While juggling Freedom of Information Act requests related to former Special Counsel Robert Hur's investigation into the Biden's handling of classified documents, following his departure as vice president in the Obama administration, Department of Justice attorneys said it would be time-consuming to process audio files into transcripts related to the president's conversation with the biographer who is writing a book about him, Mark Zonzer. We don't have some transcripts that's been created by the special counsel that we can assist to its accuracy. DOJ lawyer Cameron Silverberg told U.S. District Judge Devani Frederick last month. That changed yesterday evening when Silverberg told French in a new court filing that her office did in fact have transcripts of Biden's conversation with the biographer. The biographer worked with Biden in 2007 and again in 2017 to comply memoirs. In the past few days, in the course of processing the portions of the biographer's audio recordings that the parties agreed to, the department located the files, consisting of a total of 117 pages of verbatim transcript of a small subset of the biographer and Biden's audio recordings created by the court reporting service. The court filing yesterday evening also revealed that while fielding the various Freedom of Information requests related to the bombshell Hur report, DOJ officials contacted an unnamed person with knowledge of the transcript, but the individual was unable to weigh in. After resisting reaching out to her directly for information pertaining to what documents he relied upon for his final report, the DOJ did in fact reach out to her. Her confirmed the Biden biography transcripts and said he relied on these documents, as well as a note handwritten by Biden related to Afghanistan in his final report. Her's report on Biden's handling of classified materials after his 8 years as vice president was released back in February and stated Her would not recommend criminal charges against Biden for possessing classified material like they recommended charges against Trump for doing it. After his vice presidency, calling Biden a sympathetic, well-meaning, elderly man with a poor memory. Based on our direct interactions with and observations of him, he is someone from whom many jurors will want to identify reasonably doubt with. It would be difficult to convince a jury that they should convict him, by then a former president well into his 80s, of a serious felony that requires a mental state of willfulness, Her wrote in the report. The findings sparked widespread outrage that Biden was effectively deemed too mentally impaired to be charged with a crime, yet could still serve as the president. In May, the White House asserted executive privilege over audio and video recordings related to Her's investigation, including the interviews between Biden and that biographer. So why didn't they want it out there? The audio recordings of the interview and the biographer interview fall from the scope of executive privilege, they said. Production of these recordings to the committee would raise an unacceptable risk of undermining the department's ability to conduct similar high-profile criminal investigations, in particular investigations where the voluntary cooperation of White House officials is exceedingly important, Attorney General Merrick Garland wrote to Biden in a letter obtained by Fox News at the time. Silverberg said in his Monday court filing that he will confer with the relative parties regarding processing the documents for potential release. The court filing comes one day after President Biden dropped out of the presidential race following mounting pressure from Democrats to bow out and let another candidate take the mantle and run against President Trump. The pressure was amplified following Biden's botched debate, which opened a floodgate to all the problems. So all along, Attorney General of the United States lied. So did Kamala Harris. So did the inner circle in the administration of Joe Biden. Now let's talk a little bit about how we end up with conspiracy theories with the shot that rang out against Donald Trump. I've talked a little bit about this, and I told you that it's a deep rabbit hole to go down. A lot of people are going down that hole. I, for one, wanted to kind of stay clear of that because it's very difficult to prove that your government was involved somehow with an attempted assassination on a former president and the person going up against Joe Biden. Well, more and more evidence keeps coming out from the dumbass things that were said by the Secret Service director, such as when asked why there was no Secret Service people on top of that roof, which they would normally be, where the shooter was, she said it was because the slope of the roof was too steep and for safety reasons they didn't put anybody up there, which we all now know was a lie. It wasn't true. In fact, the roof that the Secret Service and other sharpshooters were on was even more sloped, like actually had a slope. So that was kind of like the first red flag that popped up. Why would you just blatantly lie when all these people can see for themselves that's not true? And then other things started coming out that threw up red flags, such as there was a Secret Service person assigned to that position, but they chose not to go up there because of the heat. That's right. It was so hot, and it's a metal roof. So that agent didn't go. That's being released right now by the Secret Service, by whistleblowers from the Secret Service that are coming forward and are sharing red flags that right now point to one conclusion and one conclusion only: that this attempted assassination was somehow part of the Biden plan, and it failed. Now, what else could we add to this? You know what a command post is? For those of you that have never worked in law enforcement, maybe you do, maybe you don't know. But when you have any type of major event and you have to set up a command post for it, that command post consists of all the local police agencies that are involved in whatever this event is, their head person only in that command post, so that you can all communicate instantly with each other and they can reach out to their partners and let them know exactly what's going on. For instance, let's just say that one agency sees a shooter on a roof and calls in on his radio. Then that person in command center who got the call can then turn to his other partners in that command center and say, this is what my guy's saying. Here's the location. Here's the description. And then they put it out to all their people. That's what happens in a command post. Now, I know this not just because I've been around a while, but because I'm also a former law enforcement officer. And that's what command posts are for. Anytime the Secret Service sets up their command post anywhere in the country, or out of the country for that matter, that's involving somebody they're protecting, whether it's the president, the vice president, or whoever dignitary that they're having to protect, one of each agency that's involved is in that command post. Now, the Secret Service is the overall person or people, organization responsible for what comes out of that. All right? But that's how it's set up. And you needed to know that for this. Pennsylvania police officers have now told members of Congress that they were not allowed into the Secret Service Command Center at former President Trump's rally in Butler, Pennsylvania on July 13th. And this is according to Congressman Mark Green, who spoke with them. The chairman of the House Committee on Homeland Security, along with other bipartisan members of the committee, yesterday morning toured the Butler Farm Showgrounds area where 20-year-old Thomas Crooks attempted to assassinate Trump over a week ago. Normally, according to the local sheriff, they have done these events in the past with Secret Service, as they do all over the country, and always there is one of each agency with the Secret Service in that control room. Apparently, that was not allowed this time for some unknown reason. Paul Moreau, a legal and criminal analyst and former New York PD commanding officer, said that a command center is a place for representatives of all law enforcement involved with security in an event to convene and streamline communications between the agencies. Generally, the highest ranking members of a specific agency are posted at that command center because you have to make decisions, and sometimes they're hard decisions that have to be made immediately between agencies, he explained. It is typically the Secret Service boss who is going to have the final say on anything. During Trump's rally in Butler, the command center was set up as normal, as they do every time and everywhere they go. Secret Service is fully accountable for the safety of its protectees, a Secret Service spokesperson said, and we're committed to better understanding what happened before, during, and after the assassination attempt of former President Trump to ensure that never happens again. That includes completely cooperating with Congress, the FBI, and other relative investigations. The Tennessee legislator said the committee's next steps are to sanitize all members' questions from Monday's tour of the rally site and prepare for our interviews in the committee. During a media available after the Homeland Security Committee tour, Green said some members of Congress were able to climb onto the roof that Crooks shot from without any kind of equipment. He also said a water tower that overlooks the rally site was never utilized by law enforcement or security purposes. Now think about this for a moment, folks. A building that you could, a good quarterback for a college team, hell, a good quarterback from a high school team can throw a football from the top of that building the shooter was at and hit the stage that Donald Trump was on. And the Secret Service didn't have somebody up there to protect it. What's the next highest obstacle? The water tower. A good NFL football player, quarterback, could probably get very close with a football from that water tower to the stage that Donald Trump was on. And they stationed no one up there. Why? Why? Why did that happen? You don't want us to go down this rabbit hole of conspiracy theories? All these red flags popping up everywhere that point to y'all tried to kill him on purpose? Then answer these freaking questions. The director of the Secret Service made a fool out of herself and that agency in front of Congress. Now the new director needs to get read in to everything that's happening and go in front of Congress and fill in the blanks. Republican Pennsylvania Representative Mark Kelly, who is from the area, commented on reports lawmakers are hearing that law enforcement was aware of a suspicious person about an hour before Trump took the stage on July 13th. if there was an idea that there was somebody here that was suspect, why even allow President Trump to even go to that podium? And why did we go ahead and continue with the program? That's what I want to know too. That's what the American people want to know. Everything right now is pointing towards one of the biggest, worst, horrible things to ever happen since JFK's assassination. From the very beginning to today in 2024, the conspiracy theorists have run rampant because it's been proven in many different times that there's no way in hell that that shooter got off all those shots the way he did by himself. Everything about that was a freaking disaster. And had it been for social media back then, if they would have had it like we have today and cell phones and all that kind of stuff, then it would have probably been found out right away that our government had JFK killed. And now that we are in 2024 and we have all this technology now, and we have all these people saying they heard shots coming from different directions, and we have a supposedly grainy video shot from a distance that shows what appears to be somebody on top of that water tower, and law enforcement says they weren't up there. Who's that person that is seen? I'm sure you've seen the video or a screenshot of it by now. Who is that? There's all kinds of stuff coming out right now about this kid, about how he managed to pull all this shit off, how he was able to fly a drone around that whole area and over it, and the Secret Service did nothing about it. They were there in advance while he was flying the drone. And for at least 45 minutes to possibly an hour, people saw him, knew that he wasn't a cop because of the way he was dressed, the way of his hair, his youth, with an AR-15. And then they saw him scaling up the side of a building. And they're yelling at police, telling them, look what this guy's doing. And guess what? We don't know what the communication was yet between the officers that saw it, because one supposedly even climbed up there and saw him, and then he turned his gun towards that person, towards the officer, and then that person got down. Now, you know they're communicating something, right? Yet it's not being transmitted to the Secret Service, who's fixing to let Trump come on stage. Why? Because they're not allowed to have anybody in the command center all of a sudden. Only the Secret Service could be in there. So, we didn't know. How could we know? You didn't have a representative here. There wasn't a representative there because the Secret Service wouldn't allow it. This is how conspiracy theories start. And this is pretty freaking big. And right now, I'm on the side of the fence that says they tried everything else they possibly could to get rid of Donald Trump, and it didn't work. Been trying it for over 8 years. So let's kill him. Prove me wrong. And I hope that I am proven wrong. I hope that we get to the bottom of this and there's explanations for all these red flags. I'd hate to feel or to believe that our government intentionally set out to have Donald Trump killed. Somebody in our government. But damn it, every red flag you need is available for you to see. And it's going to take the Secret Service to make them go away. Can't wait to see how they do that. Folks, you had many places you could be tonight. Chose to be here with me. Thank you very, very much. In the description of this show and all my shows, all my videos, you can see the other places you can follow me on social media. Follow me there. I'll follow you back. That's how we do this. That's how we continue to spread the message and let people know about the real facts of what's happening, not just in America, but across the globe for that matter. We do talk about a lot of stuff that's outside of America from time to time that affects Americans. But right now, everything pretty much is centered around the absolute batshit crazy things that we see happening with this current administration. And it's pretty damn scary. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving in the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, first responders, their families, our angel families, our blue and gold star families in our country. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless each and every one of you. And if you do not know what angel families are or blue and gold star families, please look that up, because they need our support more now than ever before. Because this current administration is pissing on the graves of their loved ones. And it's wide open for everybody to see. And they're doing it willfully. And that is absolutely disgusting and wrong. I'll see you back here on Thursday night at 8 p.m. Until then, if something breaks that's very important, I'll do a video about it or I'll do a live show. Other than that, have a wonderful and blessed evening. And I'll see you all on Thursday. Thank you for being here tonight.